Good morning, Dan and Amy. Well, we all understand Chicago city government to be a kleptocracy, but it's a particular kind of kleptocracy because it involves not just the political ruling class, the royal that sits on the throne on the fifth floor. It also involves the 50 feudal lords that are given dominion over 50,000 person areas of territory. And that's how the city's broken up.
And your alderman is at Boss Bar right now.
Yeah, he's at, well, it's 8 o'clock.
Right. So that's his satellite office.
Yeah. Satellite off. So he'll be Brendan Riley, who's a drunk. He'll be the vice mayor, the viceroy. Should be he'll be under the table by like 9:30, but then he'll have recovered by just after lunch to do it all over again.
For the late night crowd.
He's a full-time public servant.
Right. Well, now my alderman is running for governor.
Right. Amaya Pawar. They're just the darling, aren't they?
They're so cute.
If they didn't have so much power and the ability to inflict so much damage. That's the thing. So, city that works, right? Obviously. That's why we have
the case of the giggles today, but yeah. I mean, stories like this make me laugh.
No, it's the feudal lord system. It works, right? Isn't it working for you?
Oh, yeah. It's great.
We've got the highest black unemployment rate of any city in the country.
Highest homicide rate.
Right. It's a city that is beset by gang violence, one of the most violent cities in the country. In aggregate terms, more violent than L.A. and New York combined in terms of body count, which is just a stunning statistic. It's hemorrhaging population. Lowest population is 1920 because people can't wait to get here.
And people who do say now we have a new garbage tax.
Sure, you got the garbage tax, you got the cloud tax, you got the soda tax, you got the red light cameras, you got the speed cameras, you got the textilizer. As soon as Ed Burke finishes developing that, he's
right. And
he's leading the R&D there.
The fact if you don't comply and get a city sticker, you get a $200 ticket.
You felt the sting of that.
Yes, twice now.
No, it's again, it's a small price to pay for the kind of good government you get under this feudal system. So where are the boys that are going to have fun storming the castle, to borrow a Princess Brideism? A ordinance proposed by Alderman Greg Mitchell that's sitting in committee would require city departments to alert an alderman about each license application filed in his or her respective ward. Then the alderman could veto any application as long as he or she provided a reason for denial. Well, that's just good government. Because you want to open a business or do something in the city, then you should have a politician that can decide arbitrarily and capriciously whether or not you're allowed to open a business. Like maybe Chick-fil-A doesn't represent Chicago values. Maybe I don't want a Thai restaurant in that storefront space. I was thinking an Indian restaurant. And that
gives them way too much power.
Oh, you think? Maybe
you want a restaurant here? Then you have to bring a lunch bag full of greens.
Exactly.
Some Benjamin Frank. I know how this works.
You know the nomenclature.
I know the city that works.
Yeah. Oh, you want a liquor license?
Isn't that, You're going to have to contribute $20,000 to my campaign.
Have I told you about this upcoming event I've got with some friends? Why don't you join us?
Yeah, it'll be nice.
Oh, sure. And, but I mean, it's the ethical standard that's been set by Ed Burke, who is just one of 50 aldermen, but somehow has $8 million in his campaign fund.
$8 million.
Okay. So do we want to codify what is the common practice by ordinance, just to make it clear, to provide stability through transparency and expectation about how the city works? We can just stop with the pantomime like this isn't how it works because, look, there's an ordinance right there that says the alderman owns this part of the city, owns your homes, your businesses, your life, and the alderman shall decide what you're allowed to do or not do in the little swath of turf that they've been granted by the royal. I mean,
the possibilities of abuse. I mean, come on.
We've got medieval violence. Why don't we go to full medieval governance? For more on this, see if I can get a dissent here. We're pleased to be joined again by our friend Faisal Khan, former City of Chicago Legislative Inspector General, now the CEO of Project 6, where he continues some of his investigative work. Faisal, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Morning, guys.
So So on this ordinance that's proposed by Alderman Greg Mitchell to codify the feudal system, as we were describing, I mean, this certainly makes things easy to understand for people, and so this is a positive development.
I'm not sure what's more stunning, that somebody actually put this on paper, or that the fact that they tried to defend it after the fact. I don't know which one is the worst.
But don't they already do this? I mean, if there's a business, don't they have some say, the alderman, and who goes where
Some
and what?
say.
Well, yeah. I mean, how does it work?
They do, Amy. But the reality is that's not based in law. What this proposal will do is basically, as Dan said, codify aldermanic privilege. So we are just now making it legal for the aldermen to do whatever they want.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like in the 42nd ward where I live. I mean, I look at Alderman Riley as an omniscient being. He knows better what should be on Hubbard Street than certainly I do, or certainly a Hubbard Street proprietor. So why not just see the authority to these politicians who've demonstrated a capacity for properly representing the interests of the many, and they should be the one.
Yeah, I mean, I understand your sarcastic position on that, but let's play that out. Let's even think that Mr. Riley is some sort of omniscient being that understands exactly what the 42nd Ward needs. Well, what if he's not here in 3 years or 2 years when the next election rolls around, and we decide we need another guy in there, or woman at this point, who also thinks they're omniscient, who doesn't quite agree with Mr. Riley's view from a few years ago. So now you're subject to the whims every 4 years of a different omniscient being. That's not exactly how cities and governments are supposed to work. And that's why we have centralized government. That's why we hire people who have resumes, who have experience in building, development, business ownership, and they run city agencies. And that's why most cities, most jurisdictions defer to them, not an elected official who decided that their medical practice wasn't enough and now they're going to try to control the lives of 50,000 neighbors and residents in their ward.
But the serfs seem to love the feudal system. Why not give the serfs what they want?
Yeah, I'm fairly sure if we ask around a little bit more, the serfs will push back.
Yeah. Well, in one instance, you mentioned former Alderman Bob Fioretti. What did he block?
Well, Alderman Fioretti was named because there was a restaurant that also opened in his ward that had a number of issues, and Mr. Fioretti pushed back on those ones also. This is just a common practice. Aldermen decide that their views are equally as important as everyone else's in the future of one's business or one's home or whatever an application somebody has, a private citizen. And that's just a problem.
Now,
that's not true.
Well, here's the thing, though, I'm confused about, because you had Mayor come in 2011, and he was a tough guy from D.C. who was going to make the hard decisions and turn around Chicago. And he was backed by all the businesses that have to go genuflect before these feudal lords and finance their campaigns, or that they choose to. They don't have to. They choose to be kleptocrats. They choose to be rent seekers. And so he's backing the aldermen, it seems like, with this place. So if everybody agrees, then, I mean, I guess I'm still, what's the problem? This is the life we've chosen.
The same businesses, Dan, that you refer to that this somehow do support Mr. Emanuel and some of the aldermen are the same ones that come to Project 6 to ask us to end this practice. They're the same ones who came to the Legislative Inspector General's office to tell us they've had enough. These are the same people, individuals, who come to us to say they don't want to live this life anymore. And as you noted, that's why Chicago is emptying out, because people don't want this anymore. They've had enough of this.
Hey, Faisal Khan, recently Mayor Emanuel approved a plan to offer illegal immigrants city ID cards. What do you think could go wrong there? It's a way of escalating sanctuary city.
How much time do we have right now?
Yeah. I mean, they say it's going to be a $3 million program, but isn't that up to the federal government? I mean, when is a municipality able to issue state or ID cards?
New York City does it. Yeah.
New York City does it. San Francisco does it. But doesn't mean it's correct.
Wait a second. If New York and San Francisco do it, it still may be incorrect?
Yeah, I'm going to take that hardline position on this one. The reality is the rules that they're proposing, in that you can just get an ID card based on providing a name or someone else supporting your identification and providing a date of birth, is simply ridiculous. There's no benefit to an undocumented community to with that ID card. We have a state-run program. We're just spending another $3 million to pander to the national audience when we've got far bigger problems to worry about here in Chicago.
A serious question. I'll stop my sarcasm now. I mean, especially as somebody who came to Chicago from New York and was also in the political and good government milieu there, and similar roles as an inspector general and as a state level prosecutor. What's your experience in Chicago? I mean, do you really believe that people are reaching their own personal critical masses with respect to putting up with the kleptocracy that is Chicago and the state of Illinois, but we're focused on Chicago here, that they really don't want to just play the game of currying favor with aldermen or the mayor, politicians in general, that they really are open to a paradigm shift in this city? Or is it a handful of people that would like to see something happen, that are wishing something would happen, but are just running up against so much institutional inertia that it's going to take a Detroit-level event for that shift to truly occur?
That's a great question, Dan. I think it's a hybrid of the two. I think that we are reaching critical mass, our population here, where they've simply had enough of the way our government is being run. At the same time, apathy has set in for decades now, where that inertia that you refer to is an overwhelming factor. We just have to continuously keep pushing, and I think that people are doing that, and that's why you and I are able to have conversations like this and keep pushing on these issues. You know, $3 million is spending on these municipal IDs. That $3 million, as you guys noted, is another tax that you just described. You know, you missed the water and sewer tax in your list.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on. People need to understand that this is the money that comes out of their pocket. So whenever some elected official comes up with a boneheaded idea or a not so great one, it's coming out of your pocket. It's coming out of your wallet, and sooner or later, your wallet's going to be empty.
Well, that's
what are you going to do?
Yeah, there's just a few more city sticker tickets for Amy, and we'll cover those municipal IDs.
Right.
He is Faisal Khan. The piece was in Crane Chicago Business. Raise your hand if you think city aldermen need more power. Anyone? Faisal Khan also does a great Ben Stein impersonation from Ferris Bueller. And he is the CEO of Project 6. Faisal, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen.